lift your face. Rise and take your place.
Shooter standby.
You hit the radio bullseye. And the home for everything Second Amendment. Concealed carry, the latest gear, reciprocity, legislation, the right to self-protection. And it shall not be infringed. This is Eye on the Target Radio with your hosts, Rob and Amanda.
So, hey, Rob. So this is the section of the show where we talk about what we've done that is gun and Second Amendment related. And I have to tell you that it is somewhere between 0 and 26 degrees outside. So all of my Second Amendment related stuff is like Scrooge McDuck, counting my ammo, restacking, boxing and bagging and shifting it around, because there is no way in the world that I am going to the range. But I understand that you went to the range.
I'm all in. It's even when I'm eating a grilled cheese sandwich, I eat it in the shape of a gun before I eat it. So.
Oh my God. No, but you were at the range, and then you got
I've been
stuck.
At the range, this morning. It was like 19 when I got done. So it was a little bit earlier. It was a little bit chillier, but we were out there 2 weeks ago, and it was 16, and I think it was almost tropical at 19. I mean, it wasn't bad at all. My feet weren't cold or anything. So we had the big problem is you get that snow blindness to where like your red dot sights and stuff don't hardly work because you can't turn them up bright enough to see past the super glare of the snow.
Well, there's so much glare, and there's so much snow, and there's so much, but.
When it's super bright, use a shotgun. You don't have to aim all that.
That would be better. We've talked before about the fact that what your gun does when it's extremely cold. So I got somebody who messaged me earlier today that said, hey, I've left some ammo in my car. Can I shoot it, or do I need to warm it up before I shoot it? So, Rob, that's the question of the day.
It'll warm up as soon as you pull the trigger. It's in most cases, it won't affect it enough that you would notice it. If you were shooting like long range match or something like that, then your ammo needs to be a certain temperature to get consistent ignition and stuff. But for normal like 9mm 45, you're not shooting far enough or long enough strings to notice that there's a problem with it. Mm-hmm. And if you're shooting high powered, there's different types of primer powder combinations that can stand the cold weather. Or some people just keep their ammo in a cooler so that it doesn't get super hot or super cold.
It just normalizes the temperature. It keeps it in the cooler. It stays at one temperature. So hey folks, so today, this week, we're going to do an interesting kind of show. Rob's like, what made you think about this? Well, it's Black History Month, and I have been watching the news, and they have been talking about different people that have made history through time. And I was thinking, do you know who's making history now? Do you know who's doing great Second Amendment things? And by no means could I pull them all onto the show, but I did reach out, pull and tag a couple people that I think are making a difference in the Second Amendment world that, frankly, just happen to be Black. It's not that they're making a difference because they're Black. They're making a difference because they are making a difference.
Well, and what's that thing they say about normal people don't make the news? So what makes them special? Or what makes you want to be an overachiever to make you be special? Let's put it that way.
There's so many people. We're waiting to hear a story from Rob about stout-hearted men, black powder, and wooden sailing ships. That would be okay. I'll get him to start working on that, George. That is, Rob's always willing to tell you some of
that stuff. Though you think about it, we're complaining about the weather. There was a day when somebody was walking out west, and they had to, when they got to the river, they had to take their clothes off and wrap their gunpowder in their buckskins and put it on top of their head like a hat and then walk across the river and get to the other side and then dress back up again.
Right.
Can you imagine how much fun that had to be when it was 16, 17 degrees out or something? And it wasn't like you could just go back to Ma's house and sit by the stove for a couple hours.
No. And you took your clothes off so that they stayed dry, but
So you had something to wear when you got to the other side. That way you were still in the fighting mood instead of can't fight in wet buttskins.
yeah, I don't think you can move in wet buckskins. Have you guys seen, I mean, in the story of buckskins, have you guys actually seen, I mean, Daniel Boone, his buckskins were all like buckskin color and they were all nice and they fit good. And I mean, it was like, he's a man that's wearing leather pants and all the women were like, ooh.
Well, they actually turn black and they smell like rancid meat because they're actually raw, basically raw leather.
And they're kind of gross and they're saggy and they're filthy and they're greasy and they're, all of that kind of stuff. So the Daniel Boone and the buckskins you saw on TV is not the reality. And so you get to see more of the reality when you go to the rendezvous and stuff where they try to live the real world. And then you're like,
it's like when you see
wow.
when you go to the big dinners and that, and the guys come dressed as a continental soldier or something like this, and his uniform's all nice and clean and white and
pressed
shiny
and white. And
I mean, originally they were half torn off and caught on fire, and they were dirty and holes burned into them from being too close to the cannon and everything.
Well, and I think about this, if you live in your clothing, and if you're lucky, you had a change of clothing. If you live in your clothing, what do they look like? I mean, just give it 30 days, let alone 365.
Right.
What?
Well, like say, some of the guys who were at Potomac with Washington, they were in the clothes for a couple of years at that point, and they didn't have shoes. Their clothes were basically rags. There was nothing left of them.
Well, I could see why. I could see
Even
how.
good quality American-made clothing like that doesn't hold up after that long.
Good quality American made. Well, and you're stitching it, sewing it, all that. I think American history is so interesting in that aspect. And TV
Depends
just
on
doesn't.
which team you're listening to.
But TV doesn't teach you the real deal of all of that kind of stuff. And think about, just think about all of the stuff that happens as you're trying to navigate through being someone who is kind of, you're carrying everything on your back. So if you're riding a horse or if you're hiking, you may have a frying pan, but you sure don't have a whole bunch of stuff, because how much stuff?
Right. You think about it, they show you the cowboy movies. They usually have like a little bedroll behind the saddle, but where's the frying pan? Where's the any kind of sticks or whatever they were using to hold the frying pan out of the fire?
Or their tent, you got a bedroll, but
sacks of beans or cans of food that they were, because they had canned food at that time and stuff.
Well, and it was more believable with the guy with the mule, and the mule kind of clunked and banged and all that, because okay, he had some stuff, but if you didn't have the pack horse or the pack mule to go along with it.
But the thing is, they say, well, we're in Phoenix and we're going to take off for Tucson tomorrow. Well, today in a car, that's a pretty good drive. If you're taking your jackass across town, it takes a couple of days to get there.
Right. And there's a lot of stuff in between. And which path do you take? And how do you know which one? It's not like there's a road sign or GPS.
They didn't have GPS or that little red book thing that tells you to turn here at the blue house or whatever.
I know. the thing about all of these, the men who won the West, and maybe there's women, but okay, we'll just say humanity men, the men who won the West. What about the first guy who got to the Grand Canyon?
Yep,
do you turn right?
North or south, or what the deal
is?
Do
you turn right? Do you turn left? Which way are you going? How are you getting around that thing? Right? It amazes me.
It's kind of funny though. Today, as you fly out west, you can still see some of the original trails that the wagons cut such a deep path in the soil that there's still some of the original wagon trails going to Oregon and California that have just been scarred into the earth for eternity, apparently.
Is that it just is an amazing thing to me, the history of, and I mean, at some point we'll talk more about the guns that won the West. We'll talk about the guns that got people there. Did you know that Lewis and Clark, their gun was actually an air gun? Did you know that? So it didn't really make noise. Like,
right? Did you know that at the time of the Civil War, nobody knew what a real bullet was supposed to look like? So there was actual cartridges that you loaded in the front of the gun, and some that you loaded from the back of the gun, and some that you had to they had external primers and all kinds of different things. So,
well, the pin fire guns, and I think
they had cup fire, cheap fire, and pin fire guns. You hardly ever see any of that stuff today.
Well, and then they had giant sized rim fire guns, but those were so unstable that they potentially would rim fire in your pocket. so the history, there's a few Second Amendment, at that point I guess it was still Second Amendment, a few Second Amendment guys whose nicknames were Stubby because they were playing with guns and it didn't go so well for them. But that's the history of. But when we come back, we're going to talk more about the history of guns, and you'll love it. You'll just love it.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a Range Master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
Had a dirty day? Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps, made from fresh goat's milk and organic oils that detoxify, clean, and restore moisture to skin, will get you ready for your next adventure. These unique soaps are handcrafted in the Blue Ridge Mountains and shipped to anywhere in the U.S. Visit SillyBillyGoatFarm.com for their full line of Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps. That's SillyBillyGoatFarm.com.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Okay, so we are back talking about history. And so what's the section that we're going to talk about?
Well, you said we should talk about something about Black history. And while I was looking some of the stuff up, I mean, the big thing is that the woman they want to put on the $20 bill,
Harriet Tubman.
They said that she never went anywhere without her handgun. And the only photos they ever show her with is she has a big 76 Winchester, which was basically a Winchester's answer to a buffalo rifle. So she wasn't playing around. She had a full-size gun.
Well, the interesting part is that the picture that they're talking about putting on the $20 bill shows her with a rifle over her head. And so the Second Amendment folks are like, yeah, baby.
At the time of the Civil War, I recommend everybody go and read some of this stuff because there's a lot of stuff that's not taught to you in high school or in that. And as they rewrite history, it's being more and more pushed off the front page and everything's put in there. But there's a spot where the freed slaves, they called them freedmen, were moving to the north. The president at the time had wrote the Emancipation Proclamation freeing the slaves in the South, which he had no control over that area, but he still freed them. So the Union Army asked them to come in and start joining the army and fight for the North. Some of the black preachers at the time actually thought that was a good idea because the blacks would get training and they would also get arms at that point. And then they were allowed to keep, at that time, if you captured stuff, you could keep it. So when they came out of the army, they were more well armed than most of the rest of the. So they were
trained, they were armed, they were motivated, they were energized, and they understood what they were fighting for because they had lived through the heinous and horrendous things.
And then after the war, they come out. They were all this trained and everything. Plus, they also had a lot of arms that they had captured from the Confederacy. So they were much more well armed than the average small town.
What kind of guns would they have had? I mean, so we're really talking
Colt revolvers or copies of Colt revolvers. They would have the Enfield rifle that the Confederates were using.
So the Enfield is in what caliber?
It's a 5.77. It's basically the same 58 caliber that we were using in the North. They use a 5.77 mini ball and about 60 grain charge of powder. A 2-band and 3-band Enfields were very good quality gun, and I have an actual 2-band that shoots way better than any of my.
You're talking so fast again. So 2-band and 3-band is the band that holds the gun together.
Right. So a short gun is a 2-band and a long gun is a 3-band.
3-band. So it holds. It's a band that actually holds the stock.
The barrel into the wood.
Okay. So now if they've got, so here you are, you've got powder, you've got the mini ball. So the mini ball actually then also if you only could carry so many because it's lead and it's heavy. So did you recaptured the balls if you could? If you're shooting something, you're trying to get that back out, or
they went back. They just went back, and it was somebody else's job to cast bullets. So they just were kegs of bullets, and you would go back and reload your.
And you buy and get so that you had.
Right. During the army, they just gave you the stuff, but after then you cast your own, or you bought them, and they could come lubed, or you had to lube them yourself. So. They're pretty. It was kind of amazing because before the mini ball, you had to put a patch on and a round ball and shove it in the rifling to make it all locked together. It was slow and hard to make it happen. The mini was actually undersized. You put your 60 grains of powder in, you shoved the mini down in the tight, and when you pulled the trigger, the explosion actually blew the back of the mini out into like a funnel shape.
Okay.
And that engaged the rifling, which helped drag all the dirt that was ahead of it out of the barrel, and then so it somewhat cleaned itself as it went. So then you would just dump your powder in, put your next mini in.
Now the shape of the mini ball is not it's
basically a cone.
Okay, so it's a projectile shape. It's not a ball shape.
It's actually a cone, and it's hollow in the base. The early ones, they thought they needed something in there, so they put a piece of clay in the bottom that would drive up into it to make it expand, and then they found out they didn't really need that. It expanded on its own.
Okay.
So, but they're amazingly accurate for being loose and undersized, and you shove them in from the end.
Right, because it expand out, and then it would start to turn in the rifle aim.
As the war was over, 1867, they were all the states in the South and the cities and that were trying to pass every kind of law they could to keep the blacks from having guns and to try to keep them under control. This was some of the reason why the 14th Amendment was passed. Even at that, they didn't really have a complete handle on it because there was other places that just refused to recognize it and stuff like this. So you need to read all this stuff. It's really interesting stuff, much better than television. And
right, and because the thing is that horrific things happened, and you don't want revisionist history. You actually want to know what really happened and the people who fought to overcome it, and the things that they had done.
The thing is, if you read this and you read some of the stuff in the 20s and the 30s and the 40s and the 50s, it's been over and over and over, basically the same thing to the same people. It's just that we don't learn anything, and it's lately. Look at how the inner cities are being run. Actually the black mayors and the city councils and that are being the ones that are trying to disarm the people that live in the town.
So Chicago is trying to disarm the town, and then there's still more people being shot, and it's more dangerous, and so that is part of the reason why some of the folks that we're having on this show is talking about how they're fighting back, what they're doing, how they're offering training, the conversations that they're.
There was a study about like 20 million new guns, and crime has dropped because of the more guns on the street. So you see that with a more guns, less crime thing is actually a real.
Because then you get to be in control of your own destiny.
Instead
you get
of waiting for a policeman to show up, you could possibly stop it before it happened.
Right, so that you can stop it before it happens to you. You can stop it before it happens to someone else, and you don't have to wait 15, 20 minutes for a police officer if they can get to you or get to you in time. And so it is your responsibility to be your own personal defender, your own personal protector. And that's part of what this group of Second Amendment advocates is is doing across the different cities. I mean, but here's the deal is we are trying to get you to hear what they're doing because it's an amazing amount of stuff.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
Had a dirty day? Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps, made from fresh goat's milk and organic oils that detoxify, clean, and restore moisture to skin, will get you ready for your next adventure. These unique soaps are handcrafted in the Blue Ridge Mountains and shipped to anywhere in the U.S. Visit SillyBillyGoatFarm.com for their full line of Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps. That's SillyBillyGoatFarm.com. Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America. to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Suffolcool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Writing Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the backseat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Writing Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
Hi, this is Paul Lathrop from the Polite Society podcast. I wanted to let you know that the show you're listening to is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. You can check out all the shows on the network by going to selfdefenseradio.net or tune in for more on Self-Defense Mondays on Karma Radio, KRMAradio.com.
This is Dan Perkins with your Songs and Stories for Soldiers, Veterans Tip of the Day. If you're a veteran with a disability, are you interested in a program that could give you a free home? Homes for Our Troops is a privately funded 501c3 nonprofit organization that builds and donates specially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post-9/11 veterans to enable them to rebuild their lives. These homes restore some of the freedom and independence our veterans sacrificed while defending our country and enable them to focus on their family and recovery. Since its inception in 2004, nearly 90 cents of every dollar has gone directly to the program to serve veterans. HFOT builds these homes where the veterans choose to live and continues its relationship with the veterans after the home delivery to assist them in rebuilding their lives. For more information, go to their website, www.hfotusa.org, and see if you can qualify for the home of your dreams. This has been your Songs and Stories for Soldiers, Veterans Tip of the Day.
So, hey, folks, we are back, and with us is a guest, and our guest is Kevin Dixie. And Kevin Dixie is a St. Louis-based guy that has nootherchoice.com as his website, but his real words are aiming for the truth. He heals broken families, strengthening the community, and improving the lives of people in the cities of our nation. I met Kevin a couple years ago at one of the Second Amendment events, and I was so impressed with him that any opportunity that I've got to feature Kevin and the stuff that Kevin does, I want to take. So, hey, Kevin, thanks for joining us on Eye on the Target Radio.
Well, thank you for such an awesome introduction. You're making me blush. I appreciate it.
No, I mean, it's really true. I mean, there's a lot of people who can just talk about making a difference, and then there's people who are absolutely doing it, and you are high on that list. And so, why don't you tell folks a little bit of what you're doing in St. Louis and what you're doing in your community to kind of take back the narrative?
A few things, but I know I'll have to be, relatively quick with it. I am from St. Louis, Missouri, born and raised. I recently, just a few months ago, transplanted down to the Atlanta, Georgia area. But yeah, so it's a new moving during the pandemic is very interesting. Tell you that. But run down to Atlanta. But how I started was in St. Louis, Missouri, and this is still home. I'm actually in St. Louis right now. I just wanted to better my community. What I saw going on as a young man, and how we were, I don't know, being duped and tricked, and even, some faults of our own, not being motivated to do the right things. I just wanted to kind of break the mold of what we believed and what we thought about ourselves. So that's when I kind of started aiming for the truth without a title. It's just going around and letting people know that, violence is not okay. There are other opportunities. Education is actually a cool thing, not a bad thing. Have you ever, thought about talking to a counselor because you're angry? Anger is not a natural thing, right? We have to be able to control that and different things like that. And then at 21 is when I joined the St. Louis City Police Department. I worked in our prisoner processing division, and that's where I got my proper introduction to firearms. And putting the two together, guns, having already been fighting for civil rights, human rights, and trying to make the human beings better, and all my community work, and then actually learning not just the mechanics of the gun, but kind of the mission and purpose of the Second Amendment. That's when I realized that all these atrocities I had been talking about and educating people about and fighting to keep at bay, they all had one thing in common. Those people were either underarmed or not armed at all. Guns played a big part in that, and I started really like, wow, this is the missing piece. So I decided to take advantage of the fact that I was at a police department, and I took the gun very serious. I studied everything that I could, learned all the mechanics, obviously learned all the laws, and decided to blend gun rights into my work to make sure that we could protect ourselves, and that we understood that we have to protect ourselves from history repeating itself. And that's when I had the epiphany that gun rights are civil rights. These are human rights. I should have been fighting for these rights all along, but everything in due time, right? So since then, I started No Other Choice firearms training. The philosophy behind that is to make sure that you're a point of no other choice before you ever cause a negative impact to a human life. Even if they deserve it, extend God's grace and mercy to others as you will want to extend it to you. So that is the philosophy I taught people, because in my line of work, I saw a lot of good people that made rash decisions, and those decisions cost them years of their lives. So I wanted them to understand that the philosophy of grabbing a gun is not, hey, I got a gun, and anybody gives me any problems, I can just, react. No, you are the most responsible person. You have to be the most patient person and be at a point of no other choice. Our job is to save lives, not to take lives. And since then, it's taken off and done what it's done.
It's pretty amazing stuff. And so Rob and I decided today that we were going to do, for Black History Month, we were going to invite people that we think that it's not that you're doing amazing work because you're Black, you just happen to be Black, but I want to feature it because I don't think that Rhonda, I don't think that Rick, and a couple other people that I invited onto the show, I don't think you get enough credit for the work that you do, and the fact that you do it in communities where other people are like, just move. And it's like, you're not moving, you're staying, you're fighting, and you're fighting for your communities. And that's really a piece of what we wanted to feature here. So if you had a opportunity to talk about your role in what 100 years from now somebody says Kevin Dixie did as part of the future Black history, what do you think it would be?
I would hope they would say that Kevin did everything he did everything that he could, to expand human rights, build upon what the ancestors sacrificed. He made sure that the Black community was not left out in the expansion and conversation of American freedoms, that they weren't allowed to be pandered to, their voices are being respected. He stood up for America in general. He stood up for values. He stood up for family. And he stood for the betterment of mankind. And I hope that I go down in history as an individual that was, a giver to people, a giver for rights, and sacrificed all that I had to make sure that everybody could live the true American dream and do it peacefully and understand that our rights are ours. And he fought hard for them. That's how I hope I go down in general.
And I think you definitely will. So when you're talking about trying to introduce gun rights and gun skills and gun training in the cities, what makes that different? What makes that it is a hard thing, but what makes it more different than the rural, and what things do you have to overcome?
Well, outside of the things that I think we all go through, right? Kind of the hesitation, what's the person's backstory, if they have a bad trauma experience, stuff like that. I think that's across the board. Some of the extra things that we have to deal with are, one, the lies, right? So politically, the lies that are spread around, there's even one, and I tell people all the time that if you hang out with me, you will hear it, and it won't take long, that there are plenty of young black men especially that think that owning a gun is illegal. They actually don't think that black men are allowed to own guns. And that is done from a political stance of passing so many gun laws, and then people already kind of being ignorant of, gun laws in general or the guns themselves. They're like, oh, okay, it's all these laws. Like, we can't do this. But then when they see their counterparts, their white counterparts, still owning guns, they're like, oh, okay, white people can do it and black people can't. And they just allow that to continue. Nobody goes back and says, hey, that's not what we're saying. No, they just allow it to fester and continue because they want my community unarmed. And so then when you take that, that's one struggle. Then the other struggle is what we're seeing on media, right? How black men are projected in the media, only with violence, videos and cultural influences, right? How do they depict it, right? So then you have all this influence and this thought process of every time they put on Instagram or, the TV about, all right, I already know locally it's kind of illegal for me to own one of these things, and then this representation of gun ownership doesn't look cool. It doesn't look like something I want to be a part of. And so when you talk to them, you're like, no, this is what actual gun ownership looks like. It might not be as flashy, but it's also not as violent. It might not, you might think that this right isn't for you, but it absolutely is. And not only is it for you, let me give you historical context why you should absolutely want this right on top of that. And so that's overcoming those mental barriers with people and explaining to them everything that you believe for 25, 30 years, 18 years, 26 years, the majority of it is false. And what might be true is only half true. And so it's really more of a conversation and an education to condition the mind to be ready to accept the gun.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, and we're so blessed to have people like you that is out there and speaking, because, I mean, I can try to say that, but they're not going to hear me in the same way that they're going to hear you. And so I think that is part of what is so critical, is to be able to get this message out and to have all the different voices speaking on it, so that no matter who you are, you'll find somebody to connect with that you can hear their message. And so are you going to be doing the same thing in Atlanta? I don't want to necessarily have you roll out all your plans on the radio, but so is it a permanent move? And are you moving nootherchoice.com and No Other Choice training to Atlanta?
Actually, yes and no. So the community outreach and the firearms training, I'll go anywhere that people need me. We have No Other Choice has obviously, I've traveled the country, provided firearms training from everybody from coast to coast. I have also had those people come to me. So I'll still move around, go wherever, and train with any American that wants to get this training. Absolutely anywhere. When it comes to the outreach, I'll go anywhere as well, and to different communities, right? Because I started with, obviously, my community, my experience. But the one thing you realize as you grow and you evolve is that we're really not that different, right? Like, my problem is still your problem, even if it's worded different. So I've had the pleasure of even being down in the Phoenix, Arizona area with Cheryl Todd, which I know she's a mutual friend of both of ours. And that crowd was predominantly white and Hispanic, but they have the same problems. And so we discussed those things. So the community reach and the firearms training will go anywhere that the American populace needs it. I am not going to hold that back from anybody. And yes, Atlanta is a permanent move, but I'm not permanently affixed to Atlanta. I will go anywhere in this country where I'm needed.
Well, that is great. Well, I'm riding my motorcycle down to Atlanta, so maybe we'll catch up when we're down there. I'm going down for the Mingle with Shelley Hill in, I don't know, April, I think that is. Maybe May.
I will be offended if you don't.
Yeah, we'll have to give you a call. The girl biker gang is heading down that way, so I will reach out. But Kevin Dixie, nootherchoice.com, look him up and just Google him. I mean, you will find so much stuff about Kevin Dixie, and you will like everything that you find. So, hey, Kevin, thanks. I know you were busy today. Thanks for taking a few minutes out of your time, out of your day to join us. Appreciate it.
No, thank you so much.
Okay.
Honest citizens like you protect themselves every day. We talk about it every week on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Were these gun owners lucky, or did they have a plan? How should we defend the people we love? We discuss recent examples on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Put us in your pocket.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to davenportguns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Seppacool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the backseat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Had a dirty day? Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps, made from fresh goat's milk and organic oils that detoxify, clean, and restore moisture to skin, will get you ready for your next adventure. These unique soaps are handcrafted in the Blue Ridge Mountains and shipped to anywhere in the U.S. Visit SillyBillyGoatFarm.com for their full line of Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps. That's SillyBillyGoatFarm.com.
Well, folks, we are continuing on with the theme, and this segment's guest is Rhonda Ezell. And Rhonda Ezell is part of the Chicago Guns Matter. She is also from Ezell versus Chicago. It was a lawsuit that went to the Supreme Court. She is a member. She is one of my sisters from the DC Project. And we've asked her to come on in this segment to talk about Otis McDonald and his history in the Second Amendment world and what it really meant to us. So, hey, Rhonda, thanks for joining us on Eye on the Target Radio.
Hello, Amanda and Rob. How are you guys? Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. You were like, it was like, I've got the all-star lineup. I had Kevin Dixie. I've got you. I've got Rick Ector. So there we go. So why don't you start by telling folks who Otis McDonald was, because he's no longer on this earth, and why he was so critical to the Second Amendment fight, and how it tied in after the Heller decision, and how it all kind of played out. Because you probably have given the best explanation of this that I have ever heard.
Well, first of all, may Mr. Otis McDonald rest in peace. Otis McDonald is an American hero. Otis McDonald is an individual that is a veteran. He served his country. He's worked in the city of Chicago all of his life. He's a husband. He's a great man. Otis McDonald lived on the southwest side of the city of Chicago, out in the Morgan Park area, and he was having some issues with some gangbangers, some bad guys in his neighborhood. And so Otis wanted to protect himself and his family. I mean, that is the nature of a great man, or every man. Their job is to protect their family and their loved one. And so he wanted to do so, but he ran into a roadblock. The city of Chicago had a total ban on firearm ownership. So when the Heller versus DC case had taken place in 2010, shortly after that victory was announced on the steps of the Supreme Court, they announced that the McDonald case versus the city of Chicago Otis McDonald was going to sue the city of Chicago for the right to own a gun. So that was significant because at the time, the city of Chicago, you couldn't own a handgun in the city at all. At one point in time back in the 80s, you could have a gun, but once that license had expired, the city did not have anything in place for individuals to renew those licenses. So Mr. McDonald found himself, after fighting for this country, working in this city as long as he had, and being the great American hero that he is, found himself in a position where he wanted to protect himself and his family, and the city didn't allow that. So after the Heller decision was decided, they immediately filed a case against the city of Chicago for the right to own a gun in the home.
Okay, and so that lawsuit then worked its way through the courts, and it made it to the Supreme Court within 2 years of the Heller decision.
Absolutely.
So it was like a speed round, because Heller took 13 years to weave its way through the court, and McDonald took 2 years to also make it there. So then what was the final determination? What did the Supreme Court say about Otis McDonald and his rights to defend himself and defend his family?
Well, they said that it was unconstitutional that the city of Chicago would prevent an individual from owning a firearm. So it established that the Second Amendment was there to preserve the rights of an individual to own a gun. And so with that being said, the city of Chicago is a place that has ruled with an iron fence against gun, with gun control against its citizens. Mm-hmm. And so that was instrumental, historical. It was a landmark case. It was a landmark victory. It was something that we had been fighting for a long time, and we're told all along by the people here that it would never happen. Mm-hmm. So
why do you think
blazed the trail?
Yeah, it really did. So why do you think that Chicago continues to want to disarm their citizens? What do you think is behind that, and why?
To me, I believe, and I know it's all political, because the actual individual that is responsible for enacting the law within city council is the embattled, corrupt alderman, Ed Burke. He was an individual that was a retired police that's been an alderman for decades now, who has been in trouble with the FBI and under indictment as we speak. And he's the gentleman that brought this up way back then to enact the gun control. But yet he's the same individual that just a year or two ago had 20 or 30 firearms taken out of his office. You see what I'm saying? So,
So
they
none
do these
for
things
thee, none for thee,
Right.
but all for me, right?
Absolutely. It's all political. It's politically motivated. It does nothing to stop the violence. It only limits the good people that go to work every day, pay their taxes, live a great life, providing for their families, to not be able to protect themselves while the bad guy go on doing the dirty deeds that they do on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm. Well, why do you think that so many people know the name Heller, but they don't know the name McDonald? Because I think that they should know them, like peanut butter and jelly bread. I think they go together so well. But I don't understand why Otis McDonald's name is not revered in the same way in Second Amendment circles the way that Dick Heller's name is.
That's a great question, and I'm glad you asked that, because I've been pondering the same thing for a while. And I think within the firearm industry, the 2A community, it is our responsibility as journalists to make sure that we write about these individuals that are fighting for these rights, because it is the very reason why we created Chicago Guns Matter, was to put a face to the case, faces to the cases. You can hear the name. It'll be a household name within certain circles, but the individual doesn't know who they are. If we're not being written about, talked about, presented where people can physically see one versus just hearing the name, it's the duty of the people on the inside. Because the plaintiffs, we're not writers. We only can promote ourselves as much as we can with social media. Mr. McDonald didn't even live long enough to have that opportunity. But to know the Heller case and the Heller name, it's highly known. The McDonald case is now at that plateau as well, because when you start seeing cases all across the country when they're filing their lawsuits because these local entities are trampling over their Second Amendment rights, you definitely see the Heller case cited, and you definitely see the McDonald case cited. But I think it's the responsibility of the Second Amendment community, the firearm industry, to do a better job at making sure that the litigants, the people that actually put their lives on the line to fight these cases so that everyone can enjoy these rights, are well known. We're not writers.
Right, and I think that's a very, very good point, and for them to be well known. So, Rhonda, we have a hard stop for the news, and when we come back, we are going to talk about your case, because you used the royal we for litigants, because you also sued the city of Chicago, and it went to the Supreme Court. So we're talking to someone who has absolutely made history. So, folks, look her up, Rhonda Ezell, Ezell, from Chicago Guns Matter. And hang on, we'll be back after the news break, and you'll get to hear more from Rhonda and how she's made history.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Your Second Amendment rights are under attack like no other time in history, and the Second Amendment Foundation needs you to take action now. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have pledged to make taking away your Second Amendment rights a top priority through gun bans, gun confiscation, government regulations, and even a gun tax. They have aligned themselves with anti-gun activists like billionaire Michael Bloomberg and appoint radicals like Beto O'Rourke as the anti-gun czar. The fight begins now with your text of Protect 2A to 474747. Text Protect 2A to 474747 to pledge your support and become a Second Amendment first responder. Your right to own a gun and protect your family are on the line. Text Protect 2A to 474747 and join the fight to protect your Second Amendment rights. Text Protect 2A to 474747 to pledge your support and become a Second Amendment first responder.
Shooter standby.
You hit the radio bullseye. And the home for everything Second Amendment, concealed carry, the latest gear, reciprocity, legislation, the right to self-protection, and it shall not be infringed. This is Eye on the Target Radio with your hosts, Rob and Amanda.
Okay, we are back, and with us is our guest, Rhonda Ezell. And Rhonda Ezell is part of a group called Chicago Guns Matter. She's also part of the DC Project. And in addition, Rhonda is someone who has actually sued the city of Chicago and won. So we want to talk about Ezell versus Chicago, what happened, how it came about, and what that really means to the Chicago city and the residents of Chicago and other cities like Chicago that are trying to restrict your rights. So, hey, Rhonda, thanks for joining us on Eye on the Target Radio, and thanks for hanging over the break.
Absolutely. Thank you, Amanda and Rob, for having me back.
Yeah, well, there you go. So why don't you tell us, how did you end up being a litigant in suing the city of Chicago? I mean, I know that there's a lot of us who are so angry and we're like, we've got to do something. Somebody's got to do something. But how did you actually decide that you were going to be that somebody?
Well, one day I was sitting home, I was watching television, I was watching the news, and I saw that the city of Chicago can now have a gun in the home. And then I was shocked, and I looked again, and it says McDonald versus Chicago. Chicago now, you can have a gun in the home. And I said, oh, wow, let me get this information so that I can go ahead and get what's needed so that I can protect myself. I jotted down this information. I reached out to the school that I saw that was on the news, got in a class, got in a course, found myself traveling outside of the city of Chicago to complete a portion of the training. Because after the McDonald case was won, and now that you can have a gun in the home, the city stated that you needed to have training and you need to have range training. You also needed a Chicago firearm permit, which was a CFP, which is a license to own the gun inside of your home. So this is what the city wanted you to do. And so I was complying with that at the time. I said, okay, I had been dealing with some issues and some situations where people were trying to break into my home. And I knew then that by any means I was going to protect myself and my family. And I said, well, let me go ahead and get into this class and get this CFP so that if anything happened or anything shall happen and I have to defend myself, I'll be covered. Got in the class, paid online, drove to the place, and we get there and we're done with the educational portion. And they passed us out a piece of paper with a diagram on it, and I asked, what is this? So, okay, this is for the range tomorrow. We're going to travel to Dundee, Illinois for the range portion. And I was under the impression that we would do everything in one day. I didn't see anything online that said it was a 2-day process, and so on and so forth. Well, at that time, I had just beat life support, learned how to walk again, so health wasn't at its finest. So I traveled, I want to say, 50, 60 miles outside of the city to comply with a city ordinance. Because it's the new ordinance now. Okay, you can have the gun, but we want you to get training for it and get this license. When I got home, I reached out to the Illinois State Rifle Association because I'm a lifetime member of the Illinois State Rifle Association, and I said, I want to tell you guys about what I went through just to get to the point of figuring out what's needed in order to actually receive this CFP. No one really knew what would happen, especially with Chicago. They've been beaten in court. They're a corrupt city. They've been a corrupt place. And people are reluctant to even mention firearms because they figure something is going to go wrong. You know what I'm saying? So when I reached out to the Illinois State Rifle Association and we kind of discussed my situation, we came to the conclusion that my rights had been violated, and then Ezell versus Chicago was born. And I tell people all the time when they say, why do you join the NRA, or why did you join the ISRA? You join these organizations to get information. Because if you're just a person at home and you go to work every day and you've joined something, but you're not in a big club, the reason you join is because they are a resource. They have the information that you don't have. And so I called them. I said, okay, I pay fees. What are we paying for? Let me call these people and see what do we do next.
Okay. Yeah, and they know things. That's the thing, is you may know what the news feeds you, but we all know that doesn't necessarily give you all of the tools that you need to live your life. And
Absolutely.
so these people know more things that will help you. So, okay. So now carry on. What happened next?
So I found myself, I said, okay, I've got this training certificate. I'm going to go up to the police department on the next business day, which I think was that Monday because the class was over the weekend. And I'm going up here and I've got my little jacket on and it had all my little gun patches and my little pendants on there. And I'm proud at this point, like, yeah, I'm finna go in here and stick it to them. And I wish they would, because, it's like in Chicago and somebody finally beat them at their own game. And I know they hate it. So I was kind of prepared to like be rejected in a sense. But I went up there, and when I got there, I saw a podium, I saw a ton of microphones, and then it all changed. I was like, oh wow, something's happening. And I hadn't thought about anything. So I found a parking space. I went inside the police department, and boom, there was Mr. Otis McDonald, there was David and Colleen Lawson, there was Richard Pearson from the Illinois State Rifle Association, there was David Siegel, the attorney for the case. They were all already inside the police station. They were there as well, so they were getting their licenses. I didn't know them at the time. I had never met any of them at the time, so I kind of waved slightly like, hey, but I had my little jacket on, so I felt good. I went on and do my little process and so on and so forth, but I stepped over and I said hello to Richard, and then I was introduced to Otis McDonald and the Lawson, and that's how we met. We met in the police station as we all were trying to get our license, that the Chicago firearm permit that was needed to have the gun in the home based on the Supreme Court victory case that they had won.
That is wonderful. That is a great story of how you met him and where you met him. That is amazing. So then what happened?
So, I asked him there. I said, may I take a photo with you, Mr. McDonald? And he said, sure. He said, but don't go putting it on no social media. I said, well, so you don't have to worry about that. I don't even have social media. I don't like it. I don't know how to work it. And so he took a selfie in there, and I didn't even sit with them. I went and sat with some of my classmates that I had took this class with because I knew them. I had met them. We were Oreos. We met in orientation at our class. So quite naturally, you go sit with the people that you already know. I just met Mr. Otis McDonald and I just met the Lawsons, but I don't know them. I did stand with them or sit with them for a little bit and have a brief conversation. But then, once we completed our what we needed to do inside the police station to actually register our firearms, because that's what was needed at the time, we were all leaving out. And then I got kind of swooped into, hey, why don't you come and stand with us at the podium? We're going to talk to the news. And I was like, okay. But I didn't come here for that. Like, in my mind, I didn't want people in the city of Chicago to see me on the news knowing that I had a gun. Because at the point of living in the inner city, you will put yourself out there as vulnerable. Okay, this person has a gun. Oh, I know who this person is. I know where they live. Okay, let's watch them leave. Let's break in. Let's steal something. That's my mentality.
We got a minute and a half to cover the rest of Ezell versus Chicago. So quick.
And we will. Okay. We sued the city of Chicago for the right to have a gun range. We did training. There was no range available. We went to court in 2010. We filed in 2010. We got our first victory. And
Okay, so hold on.
2011,
So what
we went
happened
back.
is the city of Chicago, the reason that you had to drive outside of Chicago was that Chicago says you have to have training, but they wouldn't let anybody build a range within Chicago to get the training. So you had to go outside the city to get the training, correct?
Absolutely. They mandated the training, but they prohibited gun ranges at the same time. That's how I ended up traveling the 50, 60 miles outside of the city to do so. And when we found out that that was a violation, we took them to court. We won the first case, and the city didn't like that. They lost the McDonald case. They lost this first Ezell case. So then they said, you can't, okay, now that you won, you can't put it by a school, a church, a liquor store, daycare, 500 feet, things of that nature. And, of course, in the city, you have a lot of that. And so we beat them again, took them to court, and we got our second victory in. So... And that's the history of Ezell versus Chicago.
That's the history. She beat Chicago like it's a drum. So look up Ezell versus Chicago because Rhonda Ezell walks around. She tells her story. She's on the news, and she is an advocate. Rhonda Ezell, thank you very much for coming on Eye on the Target Radio.
Honest citizens like you protect themselves every day. We talk about it every week on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Were these gun owners lucky, or did they have a plan? How should we defend the people we love? We discuss recent examples on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Put us in your pocket.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to davenportguns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Hi, this is Paul Lathrop from the Polite Society podcast. I wanted to let you know that the show you're listening to is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. You can check out all the shows on the network by going to selfdefenseradio.net or tune in for more on Self-Defense Mondays on Karma Radio, krmaradio.com.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Suffolcool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Had a dirty day? Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps, made from fresh goat's milk and organic oils that detoxify, clean, and restore moisture to skin, will get you ready for your next adventure. These unique soaps are handcrafted in the Blue Ridge Mountains and shipped to anywhere in the U.S. Visit SillyBillyGoatFarm.com for their full line of Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps. That's SillyBillyGoatFarm.com.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Well, folks, continuing with the theme of amazing folks who are making history, making Second Amendment history in their neighborhoods, in their communities, and in the United States, we have with us Mr. Rick Ector from Legally Armed in Detroit. And so Rick is doing some pretty darn amazing stuff of introducing his community of Detroit, introducing them to the Second Amendment, introducing them to guns, and introducing them to gun trainers. So, hey, Rick, thanks for joining us on Eye on the Target Radio.
Hey, how are you doing? And thank you for once again having me on. Always a pleasure.
Oh, well, it's good to have you. I mean, the things that you are doing are making such a difference in your community, and then it makes other people want to be just like Rick Ector. And so let's start with telling people a little bit about your background. So the name of your business is Legally Armed in Detroit, correct?
Right.
I don't know what.
Correct. It's a blog that I created maybe 12 years ago,
okay,
which was maybe several years after I had my own brush with bad guys in Detroit. I had gotten robbed in my own driveway, and that put me on my path of discovery and personal protection and taking on a more active role in my safety. Became a firearms trainer, a training counselor, and then I became a gun rights advocate. And then I got into gun rights advocacy, and lo and behold, I was inspired to create this community service event that I do every year. So I've been on quite the journey.
I definitely have. And your community service event started out with 50 women that you're going to introduce 50 women to guns. And so tell folks a little bit about that and the journey that you've been on with that.
Yeah, I was watching my local newscast here in Detroit, and I saw a very disturbing story about a woman whose body was partially naked, found in the street, literally, and I found it very disturbing. And I thought that I would reach out with social media and see if I could convince a lot of women to take me up on a free shooting lesson. That is, the gun, the ammo, the range time target, I would cover it. I reached out to about 5 fellow firearms trainers, and we made that happen. And I was talking to a mutual friend of ours, Ken Blanchard, about it sometime in the aftermath, and he told me to keep going, keep trying it, keep trying to make it bigger. And last year, here in just outside of Detroit, at 2 gun ranges on back-to-back days, we trained in excess of 1,938 women across 2 days how to load, operate, and handle a firearm. And we gave them a range safety briefing, and I had an army of volunteers to help me do that. And I am sufficiently emboldened to revise that program for its 9th iteration, so it'll be our 10th annual Free Women's Shooting event coming up on the 21st and the 22nd of August of this year in Taylor at 2 gun ranges simultaneously on back-to-back days, on that Saturday and Sunday.
Okay, so
I've seen he was trying to get ammo for that.
Yeah, so let's talk about the logistics of this. I mean, you went from 10 years ago, you went from 50 women and 5 volunteer instructors to 1,900 women that you introduced to guns and gun safety this time, 10 years later, or 9 years later at that point. How many volunteers did it take to make that happen?
Oh, it takes approximately 60 to 80 firearms instructors, however many I can get. And I'm going to need even more this time around. Fortunately for me, I happen to know quite a few. I'm very active in the gun rights community here locally. And one of the interesting developments that came about last year is that I had quite a few people travel to Michigan to help me put on this program, and some as far as California. So let me put the plug out there if someone's interested in helping me do that this time around, this iteration. I am welcoming with open arms credentialed firearms instructors and range safety officers to come to Detroit and help me train women how to shoot.
Okay, and the date is 4,000. So the date is August what?
21st and the 22nd. Saturday and
21
Sunday.
and 22 of 2021. Okay, so we've got that. So you're doing a shout out for instructors to come and help. So range safety officers, instructors, so that you end up with a helping hand. And if your goal is 4,000 and it took you, what did you say, 60 to 80 instructors, you need 120 to 160 additional overall instructors.
That would be a nice, good number. And then there's some things to work out, whether they're going to do both days or one day. But it's a process to manage it. But I'm not turning anyone away. If someone wants to come, I'll find something for you to do.
It is not a process to manage it. I mean, that is like you're moving troops. It is a logistical nightmare.
It is, but the thing about it is that over the years, when I just started from ground zero with just 50 people and 5 or 6 firearms instructors working with me, I've had to re-engineer this program and the process all the way from the ground up every so many years to still sustain the growth and still keep it manageable. It is a project management task. It has a lot of tasks, and if you laid it out in a computer program, you would see everything that has to happen, and you would marvel at its complexity and the resources that I need to pull it off. Not only do I need manpower, I need ammunition donations and facilities and guns. I need guns.
So you need guns, ammo, targets, instructors, range safety officers,
Rangers.
hearing protection, glasses. I mean, and the ranges to shoot at. So all of that.
Yes.
So when we come back, we're going to talk about the specifics of all of those things. So I need you to hang over the commercial break. So folks, I want you to look up Rick Ector, Ector, Rick Ector from Legally Armed in Detroit. See who he is. See how you can connect with him, because it is logistics. We'll be right back.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a Range Master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
Had a dirty day? Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps, made from fresh goat's milk and organic oils that detoxify, clean, and restore moisture to skin, will get you ready for your next adventure. These unique soaps are handcrafted in the Blue Ridge Mountains and shipped to anywhere in the U.S. Visit SillyBillyGoatFarm.com for their full line of Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps. That's SillyBillyGoatFarm.com. Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America. to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
This is Dan Perkins with your songs and stories for soldiers, Veterans Tip of the Day. If you're a veteran with a disability, are you interested in a program that could give you a free home? Homes for Our Troops is a privately funded 501c3 nonprofit organization that builds and donates specially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post 9/11 veterans to enable them to rebuild their lives. These homes restore some of the freedom and independence our veterans sacrificed while defending our country and enable them to focus on their family and recovery. Since its inception in 2004, nearly 90 cents of every dollar has gone directly to the program to serve veterans. HFOT builds these homes where the veterans choose to live and continues its relationship with the veterans after the home delivery to assist them in rebuilding their lives. For more information, go to their website, www.hfotusa.org, and see if you can qualify for the home of your dreams. This has been your Songs and Stories for Soldiers, Veterans Tip of the Day.
Okay, we are back, and we are back with Mr. Rick Ector, legally armed in Detroit. And Rick is doing his darndest to make sure that there are thousands and thousands of women in Detroit who are also legally armed, or at least not afraid of guns, or understand how they work, or understand where the trainers are, or understand how to get to a range. Because what Rick is doing is Rick is breaking up the ice so that people get familiar. They've done it once. Once you go and you do it the very first time, then it's easier the second time and the third time. And so he's willing to get them started that way. So they've gone down that path one time, and it's easier. It's way easier to go the next go round. So Rick, tell us about the experience that each one of these gals has when they come to one of your range training days.
You know, their journeys are different. You know, some have had some experience with guns. Some have are gun owners. Some have CCLs, concealed pistol licenses. Some of them are just curious and have never seen a gun. And there are women who are absolutely terrified of guns, but have chosen this opportunity to get over their fear. However they come to us, they're welcome with open arms. We give them a range safety briefing, and we provide all the equipment, all the supplies, and we have them one-on-one with a credentialed firearms instructor being overseen by credentialed range safety officers. And then, depending on sponsorships, we've given out the safety glasses, we've given out baseball caps, gun locks. I mean, anything I can get my hands on that's relevant to the experience and training women to take on a more active role in their personal protection, I'm willing to pass it out to fund this event.
Do you use 22s or 9mm or what?
I standardized the process from its beginning to be a 9mm. You talk to a lot of people, they'll say, hey, well, you should start them out with a 22. But, the women come from all over the range. That is, from just wanting to be curious about guns, or they're really going to jump into self-defense, personal protection right away. 9mm, from my experience, is a good caliber to teach beginners, and they've responded very well.
Okay, well, that's good. So how do you get... So if you want 4,000 women, how many rounds is each one going to shoot? So how much ammunition are you talking about?
20 rounds per person is what I started this program with initially. That's the first event I did 9 years ago, and I kept that number constant. So 4,000 times 20 rounds, I need an incredible amount of ammunition. I need 80,000 rounds of 9mm full metal jacket, FMJ. I have 80? I have a pledge for 40,000 from Justin Azaroff from Phoenix Ammo, but I need 40,000 more rounds.
Okay, so you got a pledge for 40,000 rounds from Phoenix Ammunition. That's, talk about hiding the light under a bushel here. That is, we're looking at what ammo goes for right now. That is a pledge of $40,000 in street value of ammo that they have pledged to you. That is an amazing and phenomenally generous gift. But you need another 40,000 rounds. So okay,
and speaking with Phoenix Ammo, he's willing to take whatever people are willing to donate and produce the ammo at cost to help me get the remaining 40,000 rounds.
Okay. So do you have like a GoFundMe for ammo? Do you have a PayPal for ammo? Do you have an address that people can send you a $5 bill?
Absolutely. I'm over at info, INFO, at DetroitCCW.com. That is my PayPal address. Or if you're familiar with Cash App, it's $Rick Ector, $RickEctor.
Okay, so PayPal is info at DetroitCCW.com, and you can PayPal him, or you can Cash App you at $Rick Ector.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so folks, if you could be generous and make a donation to Rick to help him get the dollars that he needs to be able to, okay, we've put it up on the screen. So for those who are watching at any of the OpsLens view on-demand viewing of our show, you can see it, info at DetroitCCW.com for PayPal. So Rick needs to be able to, Phoenix is very generous in saying that they'll do it at their cost. They just need the money for at their cost to get 40,000 rounds of ammunition between now and August. So that's a big thing. And then you need safety glasses, you need targets, you need hearing protection. So do you have that stuff covered, or are you still working through that too?
I'm still working on it. I had sponsors for it last year, so obviously I'm going to reach out to the sponsors who provided that stuff, that PPE for me last year, and hopefully I can get them to reprise their role. But it's a work in progress. The biggest things for me now, after I secured the actual date and the facility, now I'm in the process of rounding up ammunition, and then I'm going to branch out to guns. I have a gun supplier, a gun dealer who brings enough guns to supply one range. So eventually I'm going to need guns on hand to actually run the event at the other location. It's a work in progress, moving targets, but it gets more complicated every year, but I'm willing to experience the necessary growth.
So when you talk about how many guns you need at the range, how many guns is that to stock one of the ranges?
Like to have 25 9mm semi-automatic pistols.
Okay. So do your instructors who come, do they bring a gun that you can use? Are you borrowing and utilizing from that, or pretty much they just keep their gun on themselves?
That was the way I used to operate. I have since incorporated the owner, Doug, over at ATEI. He has donated guns for me the last couple of years. Prior to that, I would have volunteers bring me guns, and I would just take real good care of them and not lose any. So if I don't get a gun dealer or a gun manufacturer to loan me about 25 9mm guns, I'll look to borrow some guns from people in the gun community.
I'm telling you. So, and people in the gun community are very generous when it comes to something like that, especially something like, okay, you can borrow my gun and just give it back. So we're all good. Just don't lose it, and they're all good. But if they're there, helping you,
a nightmare. So yeah, it would be. I would make sure I was extremely diligent of giving it back to them.
But if they're there helping you as one of the instructors or the range safety officers, then they can be like, okay, you could be there with your gun, and it travels with you, and you're there, it's doing its job, and it's training gals. So this is amazing to me. So Rick, what kind of experiences have the gals had? Have they that you've heard anecdotal stories after the fact that?
The one story I liked the best out of all the stories I've heard over the few years was there was this one lady that was visiting from Chicago. And, some people have these ideas of how people in Chicago feel about guns. I am mindful that you had my very good friend Rhonda Ezell on the prior segment. But here's the thing. There was this lady who was visiting from Chicago, visiting a friend from Detroit, and she was staying with the Detroiter for the weekend. Well, the lady from Illinois, from Chicago, she was anti-gun, and she was going to have to stay at her friend's house all day by herself while her friend was at my event. So the anti-gunner went with her friend to my event, and yes, while there, she was encouraged to just try to shoot a gun, and the lady from Chicago actually shot the gun at my event. She loved it and just had such a great time, and now she's going to buy a gun and get her own carry permit when she goes back to Illinois.
That is amazing. Talking about planting a seed and spreading the message. But I think that right there is the heart of what you do, which is plant a seed, cause them to be comfortable, show them that a gun is a tool, and I kind of look at them almost like an interactive video game that you challenge yourself with. And at the same time, it has the ability to protect you and your family. So it has just so many good things that all happen together. So we're right at the top of our segment, Rick. Thank you very much for joining us. Rick Ector, Legally Armed in Detroit. Folks, if you could be generous to Rick, help him out. He's got an ammo need. We'll talk to you when we get back.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to DavenportGuns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Suffolk and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
Okay, we are back, and I just want to say that this wraps up our show on Black History Month, because I don't want you to just watch the TV and have them talk about Martin Luther King, though that was it's amazing stuff that he's done, or Harriet Tubman. I want you to think about who is in your community right now that is making a difference, who is doing stuff, who is making their communities better. And these folks and so many more in the Second Amendment community are doing so much good work. Absolutely so much good work.
Also read the history for yourself, because this revisionist history that they're putting on us now is not really what actually happened.
It isn't. It really isn't what happened. So I want to tell you that we are in part sponsored by Car Arms, and so we're going to reach out to Car and see if there's something that they can do to help Rick Ector. Maybe loan him some guns, maybe I don't know, and it's not for me to say, but Car Arms has been very generous to Eye on the Target Radio, and they do so much stuff when it comes to the rod of iron.
Somebody on the screen wanted to know what was the oldest box of bullets we have.
Okay.
I don't know. Does he mean the stuff that I'm shooting or just the stuff that I own? Because I have some really old, Peters Cartridge Company stuff from the 20s, but I shoot stuff from the 50s still.
So he's got a box of 30 caliber Luger from Clarkens with a price tag of $6.95.
The glory days. You can't buy one bullet today for $6.95.
Not for a Luger. The interesting part is that recently we had someone come to our concealed carry class with ammunition that still had the Clarkens sticker on it. So for those of you who are not local to us, Clarkens, I think, went out of business in like 1967. So the ammo was somewhere close to as old as I am.
It was kind of like a Kmart, Walmart type store before Kmart, Walmart.
Before, yes. So there's that. But that ammo's, it's not that old because I'm not that old. We'll just say. But but Rob's got ammo. He's got an ammo collection
I have single bullets that are from Revolution or Civil War and just after, as they were trying to decide what a bullet looks like. Some wrapped tin 577 Schneider bullets and stuff like this. They call them a Dawes cartridge. They're kind of built like a shotgun shell, so they have a solid head, but they have a paper insert with a sheet metal tin foil lining like in it.
But I've also seen him pull out ammo that was from the 50s and 60s that he just shoots now. It's like, here, have the big, thick, fat cardboard box.
I had a lot of 45 automatic that was 1917, 1918 dated stuff that we shot up.
Shot. So, yeah. It went bang. It wouldn't be personal defense ammo because you don't want to bet your life on it. But it's great range ammo because if it doesn't go bang, you get to do a clearing drill and you get to learn how your gun, you can get back in the fight, all of that.
And you pull it apart later, reuse the components and build bullets for next week.
And then they'll work. It's pretty, it's pretty amazing there. So the interesting thing is that I'm talking to Rob and I'm like, maybe we're going up to help Rick Ector in Detroit in August, and he's like, well, you better check your calendar because I think you're overcommitting. So I'm not sure if we're gonna make it or not, but I do know our producer is talking about he's gonna go, and I think that there's great opportunities and the work that Rick does in Detroit is amazing. And
it's worthwhile just to see how it happens. I mean, that's one of the things where how do you handle that many people so that everyone gets something out of it in a safe and orderly manner?
Right.
And it's almost like they should film a documentary on how that happened.
Right. We could make Rick a movie star. Rick could be a movie star. But no, I think that the formula that he's got working in Detroit could be carried on to do in other places because this is what the Second Amendment is about.
And some of it, though, you look at it, it was nice that he's doubling, but where's the spot where it's out of hand and he can't control it? I mean,
he hasn't hit that yet. When the wheels fly off the bus, he'll figure that out. But right now, the sky's the limit, and he is figuring it out. And as long as people say, I can come and help, then there's that. I mean, you've been there when we've done stuff where it's like, in my head, it looks like this.
Didn't work out that way.
It was a little more creative somewhere else, right? He's like, what are we doing next, brain? But no, I think it's such a good thing, and I think it's even better if then the instructors who come from California, I know they came from California, I know they came from Florida, I know they came from Pennsylvania, I know that they traveled from all over to go up to give Rick a hand.
Well, and I know some of these ladies will come in there and they'll meet other people, and now they know someone, so they can go to the range together, and they're not going there and asking questions that they don't understand or what's going on. They'll have somebody that kind of support group to hold them up as they're going back it's much easier to go bowling the second time than it is to figure out all the stuff
rules
you got to do
for the first time. Exactly. So George is asking, anybody have a source for 22 Spitfire? So Rob, why don't you tell folks what 22 Spitfire is?
22 bullet that has it's like a segmented bullet. There was like 3 pieces, and it broke in half. It broke apart on impact.
Mm-hmm.
It was for a like small game hunting type bullet and stuff like this. I personally have never used any, but I do know what they are.
Okay, so we do not have resources for it. We do not have a source for it. Rob does not have a hidden compartment in the basement of that.
We've been talking about Remington's coming back online in all different iterations here. So possibly their ammo department's coming online. They're reloading equipment.
They're not going to start with 22 Spitfire though.
No, but it's going to add to the clutter and possibly help catch up some of this stuff. So every little bit helps. And
man, yes.
And at least they have the stuff that they can make all the component pieces to get 2 bullets. Where
so they can
somebody
help.
Says, I'm going to start my own ammo company. He doesn't understand that he still can't get primers and
components. Yes, we did run into that. I've run into that a couple times where people are like, that's it. There's a shortage in ammo. We're just going to open an ammo company. It's not that easy.
Makes as much sense as when they're showing you the landing on Mars and from somebody already there taking the filming pictures of it. How's that happen?
I don't think that's how it works. I don't think that there's somebody there filming it to say.
It looked like the cameraman was maybe 100 yards away watching this thing slowly lowered to the surface. So
no, they have a really good zoom camera.
But from where? Not from here. They had to be on the Mars anyhow.
I don't know. Not from here. The landing thing came from. Never mind. We're not talking about Mars. See, he does this to me all the time, folks. Feel bad for me.
Squirrel.
I have Rob Campbell as a radio partner. Squirrel. And he's a deep thinker, and he rolls out stuff, and it's like, no, that's not how it works. That's not how any of this works. No, stop.
Oh, it is like how it works. And
no, there's so much of it that I tell him he's not allowed to say.
Someday she'll find out that I know more about it than she gives me credit for.
Well, that could be. I just don't want it. Man, have you guys seen him in action? He knows so much stuff, but some of it's wowza.
Yeah,
it's kind of out
put
there.
Me on the spot, I'm an idiot. It's like I forget what I have to phone home to find out what my name is.
Oh, I love this. Your new name on the thing is a work from home astronaut. There you go.
I'm a stay-at-home astronaut.
Guess what? So next week we are going to have on the show the Congresswoman from Georgia, Marjorie Taylor Greene. And so she is going to talk about some of the new gun bills that she is putting out there to get people to start to think about how crazy some of these laws and legislation is. Man, she's making a name for herself, and sometimes it may be not good, but it's not bad.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. Realize FAC